Welcome to the first in a series of orientation videos for Phocas Financial Statements. These videos are designed to help you understand the breadth and depth of functionality that you can use to analyze your financial data. There are so many different ways of presenting financial data in financial statements that it can become a little overwhelming. And this video is an attempt to make that a little bit easier. We're going to start with the most common financial statement, the profit and loss statement. And on my screen there is a good example of a standard profit and loss statement. And you can see the normal sorts of things you'd see on a profit and loss statement, like revenue and cost of sales, gross profit and gross profit margin, operating expenses, other revenue, EBITDA, and then net profit. And this is a very common way of presenting the profit and loss statement in most businesses. You can also see in this view that I'm looking at the current period's data, the previous period's data, and the budget for the same period. And the period I'm looking at is July 2020 through to May 2021. And my previous period is July 2019 through to May 2020. The first thing to say about financial statements is you can have a number of different profit and loss statements configured. So I can easily move from this version of my profit and loss to a flatter version of my profit and loss, where a number of my expense categories are in the front of the statement. And this makes it much easier to see some of the most important operating expenses on a profit and loss statement. Similarly, if I'm more interested in profit and loss metrics, I can have another view of my data that focuses on some of the key metrics. In this case, I'm looking at metrics like sales per day, wages as a percentage of sales, other operating expenses as a percentage of sales, and some key margin calculations. And they're brought to the top of the statement to make it a little easier to follow. So as you can see, there is no such thing as a single profit and loss statement in financial statements. Our basic profit and loss statement, I'd now like to show you some other functionality that allows you to change what appears on the statement itself. For example, I may not want to see current, previous and budget in the same view. I can select columns and elect to remove the previous year's data. Now I'm just looking at current and budget data. Similarly, if I've got more than one budget, so for example I might have a stretch budget, I can bring that into my statement by selecting it in the variance stream column. Now I'm looking at my current, my budget and my stretch budget numbers, and I can see variance to budget and stretch budget in this view. I can also bring back my previous year if I wish to see that as well. So as you can see, I've got quite a bit of flexibility about whether I present data for my budget, my previous period, and if I've got more than one budget, I can view them on the same screen. It's also possible to look at financial statements on a month-by-month or period-by-period basis by selecting Include Periods on the columns drop-down. Now I'm looking at my profit and loss statement on a month-by-month basis from the beginning of my financial year through to my current financial period. This particular functionality is very powerful if you have configured additional date periods. So for example, in my period drop-down, you'll see that I've got financial quarters configured as a custom period. When I select financial quarters, I'm now looking at my profit and loss broken down on a quarter-by-quarter basis when I select Include Periods. If I go further, I can modify the actual date range and select the previous year's quarters as well. Now I'm looking at the last 2 years' performance in my profit and loss on a quarter-by-quarter basis. So you can see that there's quite a bit of flexibility in the way you can present the actual columns on a financial statement. One of the nice things about having a period configuration set up on your screen is you can then move easily from one financial statement to another. So this is my quarter by quarter view of my standard financial statement, and I can then go and have a look at a different profit and loss. Let's take the metrics profit and loss that I mentioned earlier in the video, And I can also see those numbers on a quarter by quarter basis. And then I can easily switch from that profit and loss statement to my flat profit and loss statement that I also showed earlier and see that in the same quarter by quarter view. So the combination of include periods and custom periods with different profit and loss views gives you a very dynamic and flexible way of looking at your profit and loss data. Finally, I'd like to show you one more view of a profit and loss statement that is quite useful. In the columns drop-down, select last period. This will show the last period in your financial database as a block of data and will also have the year-to-date numbers to the right. Now, this is a very common way of presenting a financial statement with the current period shown on the left and the year-to-date numbers on the right. This view is obtained by selecting last period. You can also, in the same drop-down, say, let's look at percentage revenue, and this will show each row of your profit and loss as a percentage of revenue. This is particularly useful when looking at things like operating expenses and understanding what percentage of revenue they represent. So a couple more ways of looking at a profit and loss statement to help give you further insights into how your business is performing. Thanks for watching.